Welcome to the Maroon Loon Show on 103.3 KUMD. We are your source for all things UMD hockey all season long. Check us out every Thursday night at 9 p.m. on The Basement, student-run radio. Also visit maroonloon.com for stories and commentary. My name is Justin Capelle, and I am here with my good friend and co-host, Adam Broich.
Hey everybody, I'm Adam Broich, and this week we're going to talk about the opening weekend, other WCHA action, and wrap up with some Bulldog football and maybe some other sports. But first, for the regular season opening weekend at Amsoil, we split the series with Notre Dame, who is ranked number 1 currently, 4-3 on Friday and 5-3 loss on Saturday. Let's start with Friday's game. That opening ceremony was awesome, wasn't it, Justin?
Yes, I agree with you. It was just really great to see that banner go up, and there was a lot of support from the fans and the university. It had to be pretty much a sellout. I mean, just the stands were packed.
Just about a sellout, and gorgeous ceremony. I think I shed a few tears. Everybody was clapping. There was even a serviceman on the ice, along with the national anthem. It was really awesome to see that banner go up and see the support from the fans. First night was a thriller. Snuck out with a 4-3 victory. Alexic scored with 4:24 left in the third period, and the energy in the arena was absolutely incredible. It was tied 2-2 going into third with the other goals from the Bulldogs, with J.T. Brown continuing his streak, Mike Seidel, and Keegan Flaherty getting his first career goal as a Bulldog.
Yeah, and for this game, it was just really nice seeing a bunch of different people get on the board, because that first game of the season, you really want to make sure that everyone's getting included, and because if you start out good, it's a lot easier just to build on that success.
Absolutely. Total shots on goal were Bulldogs 31, Notre Dame 12. Bulldogs absolutely dominating the whole game, it felt like, but just couldn't get the goals until the later part of the game. We're going to game 2.
Yep, and for game 2, it did not go as smooth for us Bulldogs. We ended up losing 5-3 to Notre Dame, but what was probably the most frustrating part about it is that Travis Alexic and Mike Seidel both scored goals, and it got us up to an early 2-0 lead, and then after that it just fell apart. We gave up 5 straight goals to the Irish. But one of the interesting parts about the third period anyways was that there was a major penalty on Stephen Johns of Notre Dame, and it ended up being a 5-minute power play for us at the end. And does it mean he's suspended for the next game? Or
I believe so, yeah.
But Mike Seidel did score again he did score again at the end to tack on to make it 5-3, but we just couldn't get anything else in the net. And then shots on goal ended up being 24 Notre Dame and 23 UMD. But a main thing to take from that game would be to say it was great to see that Alexic and Seidel are off to huge starts, because we did lose a lot of offensive firepower with Mike Conley and Justin Fontaine.
Alexic and Seidel will be huge, need to be huge this year for the Bulldogs, for us to have continued success, especially with those 2 losses of Conley and Fontaine. So the Bulldogs are off to a 1-1 start, and we actually dropped to number 9 ranking as we face the Gophers, who are 2-0 this week. And we'll talk about that later. But let's talk about the justification of the number 9 ranking, of dropping a spot after beating and only losing to Notre Dame by 2 in the second night.
Yeah, I just didn't agree with it at all. I was expecting, maybe I guess we beat the number 1 team once, and then we lost to them once, which should put us up. I was thinking 5 or 6 or maybe even 7. Just moving up, because we did beat such a quality team. But I guess it's early. Rankings really don't mean anything as long as you're ranked high enough to get into the tournament at the end, I guess. But
and I do agree with number 1 for Notre Dame, because they were such a good and young team last year, and so you would think that they would have continued success this year with such a young team. Pretty much everyone coming back, and the Bulldogs, I guess, dropping to 8, just because they did lose so much talent in those players, and we had all the seniors last year. But dropping a ranking, I'm not really sure about that. I'm going to talk about the freshmen coming in and other players around the league, just to familiarize you guys with some of the new faces we have. To start out with, I'm just going to go through the freshmen. We had Derek Johnson, who is actually 21 years old. He played 3 years of junior hockey, His dad actually played for the Bulldogs, Jim Johnson, from 1981 to 85. When he played with, actually he has UMD's all-time penalty minutes leader.
Wow, that's actually
So,
pretty sweet. It's like have your dad be a Bulldog
Yep.
hero, and then you played him later. It's just sweet.
Mm-hmm. And Derek played with Penticton V's in British Columbia Hockey League. He's a physical player, of course, following after his dad, I'm sure, with a lot of penalty minutes. Maybe see a bit of him this year. Not so sure how they're going to utilize him. I don't think he played all weekend, so we'll see what happens here on out. Another freshman, number 5, Chris Casto, is from Stillwater, Minnesota, played at Hill Murray, and in Lincoln for the USHL last year. Skates well, has some offensive skills. He played both Saturday and Friday.
Like I saw him in there a lot, and it seemed like whenever he was in there, like, he was making a difference. Like he always had a stick on the puck. He was everywhere. I wasn't that familiar with him because it was the first game of the season. I saw him, and this guy was everywhere. So I'm hoping maybe he could kind of be like JT was last year, and just be a freshman that just makes a huge impact. But I guess we'll see.
He looked good out there defensively, and he as an offensive defenseman, he brings out some offensive skills that we're looking for. You might see him on the power play later on in the season. So that's Chris Casto, number 5. Number 21, Caleb Herbert from Bloomington, Minnesota, is also a freshman. He's going to be a center or a forward. He had 50 points in Sioux City last year for the USHL. He's got great speed and skill, and he played his high school at Jefferson. He played both games this weekend, I think, and he was at Capitol's development camp earlier this year. I think what he learned from Capitol's development camp for the past couple of years, actually, because he was drafted earlier, is just the pace of the game. Because from going from high school to college, there's obviously a huge difference in pace and speed. So we're glad that he got out to experience some of that NHL quality style of play earlier this year. Hopefully it transfers to his play on the ice for the Bulldogs. Another freshman, number 25, Justin Crandall, from Lakeville, Minnesota, followed his brother Aaron Crandall and played at St. Thomas. We have Aaron Crandall, of course, is one of our goalies here at UMD. So Justin played at St. Thomas. He's a forward. He likes to score some goals, get some points on the board. He's a born leader, but I don't think we'll see him play regularly for and maybe until next year. He played the second game this weekend, and he's a hard worker, so look for him in the future, but he'll play maybe half the games this year, I would assume. I'm not really sure. Number 26, Adam Kraus, freshman from Hermantown. He's a big defensive centerman and plays. He played for Chicago Steel this last year for the USHL, and he scored against Lakehead, of course, if you guys were at that game. And he played against Notre Dame on Saturday as well. Big kid, 6'3", 205. Looking forward to this kid in the future. We'll probably see him on the ice every other game, maybe away games. So those are the freshmen basically for UMD, and some new additions that we had that are not freshmen. Tim Smith, number 16, is a 2008 finalist for Mr. Hockey in Wisconsin. He's from Superior, played for the Indiana Ice, and played half a season of D1 in Providence at Providence College, the Friars over there. So he's got some D1 experience. I think he did play on Saturday, so you might see him every other game or something like that.
Okay, and that must be interesting with him, because did he play for Providence last year? Because that was our opening series at home at the Deck, wasn't it, last year?
I'm not sure if he played for him last year or the year before, but he had D1 experience. I'm guessing it was last year, but he could have been called up halfway through,
Okay, yeah, like it's always hard to tell how that works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's tough. And also, we had another transfer from Providence, Aaron Jamnick, who's actually number 24 on the roster, technically, according to WCHA.com, but it says he's not going to be eligible until 2012-2013. He just transferred here from Providence as well. 15 points in 66 games. So he played at Hibbing High School from Hibbing. So he's coming back home, I guess. And then just another notable, Cody Damberg has played 100 games for the Bulldogs. He's a fifth-year senior this year, has had 8 goals and 11 assists in all those 100 games as a Bulldog. He's actually a fifth-year senior this year, but you didn't see him last year because he opted to sit out his senior year as a medical redshirt after sustaining a knee injury and he had to go undergo surgery for that. So he's back, and he played his first game on Friday in 18 months for the Bulldogs. So we're glad to see him back, and he got an assist. So hopefully he can get his game rolling again.
Yeah, and that's great to see him back. And is he one of the captains?
He is.
I think
he got
it's him. I think it's him and Jack, right? Like Jack's the captain, and then he's an assistant.
Yep, Jack's captain. Cody's an assistant. I think somebody else is an assistant. I'm not really sure at this point. I don't remember.
Okay, but like we will get that information to you as soon as as soon as we know.
Yeah. All right, and so there's a few players on the Bulldogs that have been drafted in the NHL. I just want to go through those just as a preview for you guys, so you can see players to watch on the Bulldogs. The first one we got Scott Kishel, who is a veteran defenseman for us. He was drafted by Montreal a while ago, actually. Drew Olson is also drafted. He's drafted by Columbus in the NHL. He might leave after this year or the year after. Big Danny Delisle was drafted by Chicago a couple of years ago. Caleb Herbert, our freshman, was drafted by Washington Capitals, as we just talked about him in the development camp. He was drafted in the 5th round in 2010. Joe Basaraba was drafted by Florida. Max Tardy was drafted by St. Louis. And we also had some players going to development camps this year, which included J.T. Brown, who was undrafted, but he went to the Flyers and Wild camp. Connolly went to the Wild camp. Alexic went to Canucks camp. And freshman Derek Johnson actually went to the Wild camp as well. And along with Drew Olson, Dane Delisle, Herbert, and Basaraba also went to those NHL teams' camps. So we got players getting out there, getting their feet wet in the NHL, getting a feel of what's expected of them, and working out with some big kids. So hopefully that transfers onto the ice this upcoming fall here.
Mm-hmm. And I definitely agree with you there, Adam, because it's great to see these guys like getting involved in the game, because it really does show like how good and strong of a program we are right now, because we've got these players and they are NHL caliber talent. So it's just a great thing to see, and it means it'll be really fun to watch them on the ice for the rest of the year.
Absolutely.
Now for around the WCHA. Alaska Anchorage ended up going 1-0-1 for the weekend. On Friday's game, they beat Clarkson 4-4. Sounds odd, though, because they won, but it was a tie. But the reason that is because it was a semifinal game of the Kendall Hockey Classic, which is something that Alaska Anchorage hosts every year. And they ended up winning 1-0 in a shootout. But since it was a tie, and it was against Clarkson, the game didn't count in the WCHA standings or even the NCAA standings at all, because that tournament does. Yeah, it did.
Yeah, and we saw Clarkson last year, I believe, and they weren't that great of a team. I think we beat them twice last year. So having Anchorage tie to them doesn't say too much for Anchorage at this point.
No, not at all. And then Saturday's game, was another overtime thriller against St. Cloud, and they actually ended up winning that one. They went. Mickey Spencer scored with 1:54 remaining in overtime to lift the Seawolves to a 4-3 victory. It was Spencer's third goal of the game, giving him a hat trick. So even though the team might not be that strong, he might be someone to look out for, because that's pretty impressive anytime you score a hat trick. And St. Cloud, they're.
St. Cloud's no scrub. They're a good team.
Yep.
So they played a couple of close games this weekend. Telling me that they could be inconsistent just because they played a couple of different caliber teams and tied both pretty much.
Yeah,
going into overtime.
Definitely, and the Seawolves winning that counts as the 6th time they've won the Kendall Hockey Classic in school history. So, and what's kind of cool is it was the first time that they ever invited St. Cloud to go there. So it's probably kind of cool for St. Cloud to go to Alaska for a couple games and go to a tournament. But.
Yeah. Speaking of St. Cloud, they ended up going 1-1 this weekend. Friday's game, the Huskies won decisively over Alaska Fairbanks. Nick Dowd, Ben Hanowski, Travis Novak, and Drew LeBlanc all scored. LeBlanc is a local from Hermantown, so good for him getting on the board early in the season. And Hanowski is no surprise with him scoring, the Little Falls native. Has been a very good shot, and he absolutely destroyed us at home last year. Hanowski is a great player to look for in the future in the NHL and WCHA. Huskies pulled out a victory despite being outshot 24-15
And I
So,
think that's really weird. I just when I saw that stat, I just started laughing because I figured I just don't understand. I mean, like 24-15, like, that's getting outshot pretty bad. But I mean, or also maybe their shots were accurate if they made 15 of them too. But then also another note to look at with that is St. Cloud's power play might be something to look out for because in that game they went 0 for 7 while Fairbanks was 1 for 4. So that means even with 7 power plays, they only got 15 shots on net.
yeah. That's not very good. You want to get at least, I understand block shots and stuff like that, but you want to get at least 2 or at least 1 a shot, a power play. So that should be maybe 14 shots there, and then the rest of the game playing even strength, you got to get more shots than that. So just throwing pucks on net should be huge for the Huskies, or a huge point to look forward to for the Huskies.
Most definitely. And then moving on to the Bemidji State Beavers, they went 1-1 on the weekend in